Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
So, salary struggles once again. Tonight we're looking at mounting frustration in the public sector as wage negotiations continue to spark tension between the government and several unions. The Jamaica Civil Service Association is pushing back on a 0% offer, and the doctors say they are still waiting on promised overtime rates. Two critical groups demanding fairness in how the government pays and protects its workers. Now, this is Lead Story, and I'm Giovanni Dennis. Good evening and welcome. Now, the Jamaica Civil Service Association says some of its traveling officers are being left behind under the government's compensation scheme, and they've rejected what they call a 0% offer on wages. Now, the association is also raising concerns about occupational health and safety, saying that there are many public servants who are working under difficult conditions. We'll hear what those are. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association is before the Industrial Disputes Tribunal in what's been called the largest monetary case in the body's 50-year history. And that's where we want to start, as there was also a meeting with the IDT today, and we want to get the latest now then from the president of the JMDA, Dr. Rene Badjo. Dr. Badjo, president of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you are now before the IDT on this major issue. Give us a breakdown in terms of the genesis of this issue and what's being discussed here.
All right, so the issue that we're having currently with the government of Jamaica is their lack thereof, or them not honoring the contract that we signed in 2023 and not really paying respect to the contracts that we've had for several heads of agreement and several negotiations. We've said to them that our issues really are two parts. How our overtime is paid, because overtime is mandatory for doctors. We don't have enough doctors in the system to be able to staff the system for 24 hours. So doctors have to work overtime so that if you come in at like say 6 o'clock in the evening or even 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a doctor there to see you. So that's because we have to do overtime. And we said to them that our doctors work differently, and you can't expect to pay the doctor that covers more than one hospital, has moved from Bustamante, moved to KPH, moved to Hope Institute, have to go to all the way up Sir John Golden Rehabilitation Center. Those specialties that have that kind of intense level of medical legal responsibility, you cannot pay them the same as a doctor who's only responsible for one location. We also explained to them that the doctors in the countryside, they don't have the level of staff and support that a doctor in the urban centers will have, where you may have 1 or 2 doctors in a service if you have so much doctors in that service. So we're explaining to them that that cannot happen.
Okay, and where are we now in terms of what you want to get from the IDT on this particular issue?
Well, right now the JMD has presented its case at the IDT, and I want to point out something very significant. In May, or around May, the title $1 Billion Showdown came out, where the government of Jamaica actually submitted to the Industrial Disputes Tribunal that what the JMD's overtime is anywhere from 140 billion, and what the government has assigned 103 billion. And from day one, the JMD has said, from last year, the JMD has said, that is not the cost. That is not the cost. Where are you getting your calculations from? Those numbers do not make any sense. And only for the ministry to say, lo and behold, no, it's not 103 billion. And they reported to the tribunal these exact words. Those numbers were flawed, highly inaccurate, and erroneous.
Whose numbers were flawed? The government's initial numbers or your numbers they were saying were flawed initially?
Not our numbers, the government numbers were flawed. So the government of Jamaica admitted that their numbers were flawed, highly inaccurate, and erroneous.
And so the actual cost of the back payment in overtime now, what's the actual cost and not the 103 billion that you say they initially reported?
Not half that amount.
Not even half that amount?
Not even half that amount.
So is there any kind of concession from the government to say, okay, since it's less than half of what we were expecting or anticipating, and it's less than half, no, we'll actually make the payments? Is there any sort of concession in the discussions?
No, the ministry has remained hard and fast, and we have said to them that tribunal has actually asked if the two sides are willing to sit together and negotiate, and we said we are willing to negotiate. Come, let us talk. Government of Jamaica, no. No,
okay.
no.
We want to delve a little bit further in that, but we also want to bring in Tisha Clark Griffiths to hear some of the issues from the JCA perspective, but we will hear that right after this first break here on Lead Story. Stay with us here on CVM TV. We're talking about outstanding issues for public sector workers and their salaries. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Deposit insurance in a minute. JDIC insures deposits up to $1.2 million per depositor, per ownership category, per institution.
This includes individual and joint accounts. If you have an individual account, it is insured separately from a joint account that you share with someone else.
So my personal account can get up to $1.2 million, and the joint account where me and my mother have can get up to $1.2 million too?
That is it. JDIC ensures that if you have an account in your name alone and another account with somebody else, your money is protected, giving you financial security and peace of mind.
Nice to know.
Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation.
Protecting your deposits,
securing your future.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
And that's what you love to see. They may be rivals, but the camaraderie is what it's all about. Can't wait for the final.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. I'm Giovanni Dennis. We're talking about outstanding public sector wage negotiation issues against the background of a meeting that was held on Friday with the Ministry of Finance and the Independent Fiscal Commission and members of several unions representing government workers to discuss the current fiscal and wage negotiation framework. Now, these are some of the concerns that were raised. The Independent Fiscal Commission emphasized the importance of establishing a fixed compensation negotiation cycle, recommending wage settlements be finalized at least 6 months before the annual budget call, ideally by the end of January, to inform the government's budget planning. And the IFC highlighted that negotiations currently lag by at least 15 months, creating uncertainty about the wage bill, the largest single budget item. Let's get a reaction now then from Tisha Clark Griffiths on this issue. One of the major concerns is still the 0% offer from the government for this particular cycle. You're saying that's a non-starter, Ms. Griffiths?
A non-starter, definitely. I want to emphasize, Giovanni, that unions negotiate for the best interest of their membership. That is what we are here to do. And I believe that our representation for our members, specifically to my 30,000 that I have at the Jamaica Civil Service Association, it is important for us to understand that this is what we are paid to do. And may I say that the government, we appreciate the information that was shared, but the meeting that was called last Friday was for information purposes. And the commissioner, the fiscal commissioner presentation is more to temper the expectation of the trade union movement.
What do you mean when they say temper the expectations? It sounds as if you're saying, they were saying basically, don't ask us for too much because this is a situation that the country is in right now. In layman's terms, some of you.
Correct. That is it. That is what I get from it, to say, here is the real situation. And whilst we understand your position, it's basically not realistic what you're asking for. I don't know if they know what we're asking for.
You said they're saying here is a position. What exactly did they say was a position?
They're saying that we're based on what is in the country fiscal position right now, is that where the government is, it is not in a sustainable position to offer a particular percentage increase and sustain it over a particular period of time. So the actual budget
is that unreasonable though, Mrs. Griffiths?
I hear them, but I also want to go back to when we had in 2011, 2010, when the public servants was asked, when we were under the IMF, to freeze wages, to understand the fiscal position of the country, to bring the country to a point where when it is fiscally prudent to give back to public servants what they would have sacrificed. And we have done that. We have said, yes, we understand that the country is we also take that into consideration. And so we have given up our increases over the many years. I don't think that I've ever heard of any calculations, either from the fiscal commissioner or any other economist, on the cost to public servants, that huge cost of the many years of wage freeze that we have given up. What we are hearing is the opposite, though, that this is, if it is that we decide not to go a particular route, then this is what the country is going to look like. But the public servants have the position, and the position is that the country is doing well. We have seen it. As a matter of fact, Giovanni, let's just go back to the position paper, the fiscal position paper that the government has presented. From 2025-26 to 2027-28, 25-26, 6% increase for wages and salaries over the 3-year period. So 6% in 25-26, 26-27, 6%, 27-28. That's their figure. We are using that figure, which is in keeping with our current inflation rate, to present to the government their own figures to say, you are offering 0, but you have budgeted for and facilitated in your paper a 6% increase. Let us do the math there.
And this fiscal paper you're referencing is actually on the Ministry of Finance and Public Services website. So anybody from the public can go and see that.
Anybody can go and view it. Anybody can go and view it, unless it is what Dr. Badjo have said, that the figures are erroneous. But if they are factual, as they said they are, then there's space in the budget to facilitate the increase in salaries.
I hear the government speak back and saying there are issues collecting some of the funds that they have to collect, and some of what was budgeted for or forecast to come in have not actually materialized, and so therefore they have to adjust based on that. And that's where I'm coming from, to say, is it unreasonable for the government to say, okay, 0% in the first year, and I think in the second year they say they'll now get back on track to offer something? Is that in itself such a bad thing?
I cannot argue for the government, Giovanni. I am the president of the Civil Service Association. There are strategies that, if it is that there are outstanding taxes to be collected, there are strategies that the government must employ to collect those taxes. We talk about tax justice. The Jamaica Civil Service Association would like the government to collect the taxes, to implement the strategies, the growth strategies for the country, so that we can understand what those are, and for those persons who are evading taxes to go after those persons. But we can't escape taxes, you know. The public servants, our taxes come out first from our salaries. We are the ones who paid the taxes. In fact, I can tell you that under the compensation review, over 20,000 traveling officers who, by the way, were non-taxable officers. We did not pay traveling taxes on traveling before 2022. Now we are paying taxes on traveling. And think about it. 20% increase we've got, some of us.
Hold a second, let me just think about it as well for another 2 minutes or so. I have to do some business.
Yes.
I have another short break here. When I come back, I do want to speak about that issue of traveling and the duty concession that you just alluded to. Tisha Clark Griffiths was speaking with President of the Jamaica Civil Service Association, Tisha Clark Griffiths, as well as the President of the JMDA, Dr. Renee Badjo, outstanding public sector wage negotiation issues here on Lead Story. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's time.
Welcome to High School Pitchside. We have another fascinating episode for you.
More matches, more big clashes.
Let's talk about some of the big rivalries coming up this week.
More of your favorite features.
And trust me, you won't fall asleep in this history class.
And of course, we always want to hear from you.
Hear from your alma mater's players and coaches in Team Talk.
You know we can't leave you out. So send us your messages on social media and watch us react on FanView.
And you know we love a good little debate, right, Gio? We've got you covered all season long on High School Pitchside.
High School Pitchside, your ultimate guide to all things schoolboy football, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. I'm Giovanni Dennis. We're speaking with the President of the Jamaica Civil Service Association, Ms. Tisha Clark Griffiths, along with the President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Renee Badjo. Before the break, Ms. Griffiths, you had alluded to the issue for traveling officers, and you have a problem with the duty concession entitlements that we were speaking about before we came on air as well. What exactly is the gravamen of your issue with the changes in the entitlement regarding concessions?
So what happened is, before 2022, persons who are bona fide traveling officers would be entitled to have duty concession or after 5 years, every 5 years. After April 1, 2022, persons who are traveling officers who, by the way, their duties based on their job, they have to go on the road, they have to do the work of the government, which includes significant traveling. They are not entitled to duty concession after.
And just for clarity, Ms. Griffiths, just for some of our viewers, again, when you say duty concession, what do you mean by this? Just so we're clear.
Duty concession is a benefit that is allotted to traveling officers who have to travel to do the work of the government. So they, after every 5 years, each traveling officer, once you're appointed in the post that is a traveling post and is a bona fide traveling officer, you're entitled to a 20% duty concession for any imported vehicle that you have with 5 years. Over 5 years or less, new vehicle, and of course vehicles that are 5 years and less. So you have the opportunity to change your vehicle every 5 years in keeping with the motor vehicle policy. However, the average public servants change their vehicles between 8 to 10 years. We have seen it, of course. When
and let me just bring in Dr. Badjo on this here. Dr. Badjo, is this a concern as well for medical doctors?
Yes, it is a serious concern, because many of our doctors, they have to travel through the countryside, travel around town. They have to visit sick patients in their homes because they can't make it to medical facilities. So we do quite a bit of traveling, and we carry not only ourselves but other healthcare professionals in our cars to visit these patients. So the matter of concession, where it's not available for doctors who are newly receiving contracts after 2023 for us, because we started in 2023, it really is concerning. It's very concerning.
And one of the points we were speaking about again before we came on air was the fact that you have doctors sometimes going up to multiple medical facilities in one night, working there overtime. Like, how many medical facilities has one doctor gone to in a night, for example, just to kind of put this into perspective as a traveling officer?
It varies, but at the very least it's 2. We have the psychiatry specialty. They're responsible for 6 different locations at least. Plus, you have to consider community in it as well. Bustamante shares neurosurgery, some of the neurosurgeons with KPH. So an ENT, or ear, nose, and throat, they're shared between KPH. Some of the doctors, that is, are shared between KPH and Bustamante. So in a night, you have doctors moving up and down to see patient here, see patient up by Bustamante all the time. So we use our cars quite a bit.
Yeah, and so for you, Mrs. Griffiths, you're saying the major issue now with the duty concession is that if you're there, if you gain employment after 2022, you're not entitled.
You're not so entitled. So what you will have is two co-workers working alongside each other. One would have come in before 2022 and is entitled to full concession, and of course, that forms part of compensation. And those that come after, even though they have to travel practically to the same locations, if you ask me, they're only entitled to claiming for mileage, which, by the way, cannot substitute for concession and other benefits of traveling allowance, because traveling allowance, which was a non-taxable allowance, is now rolled into salaries and tax. Matter of fact, the 20% increase that we got for salaries, with the income tax rate moving to 25%, and so those over 6 million get paying 30%, really doesn't really work out for public sector workers, specifically traveling officers, because that led to a temporary allowance which barely was bringing them up to the 20% anyway. So that is just one of the myriad of issues, and I can name some more. We have outstanding anomalies that still have not been addressed under the compensation.
And that's where I wanted to go after we spoke about the issue with the duty concession. You're saying that even within the workspace, your occupational health and safety issues, that a lot of your members, you speak very boldly of your 30,000 strong members, the issues that they're facing. What are some of these issues in the workspace?
So a lot of the buildings have mold, and I don't know, in recent times I had to go to 2 of the government entities, of course, which is in the public space, and what Administrator General's department was one of them. And there are still issues that emanated from other departments that I have to intervene in getting the workers to. As a matter of fact, I was the one who would have intervened in the Admin General's issue, and I took it to the Ministry of Labour for resolution, which still have not been completely resolved. But there are the institutions that are plagued by some of these issues, and not only
that, outside of the Administrator General office, where there are concerns about more, there are others right now in the public sector that's affecting the workers right now.
Public, absolutely. The
Could you
working
name
conditions.
them? Any of them, or a couple?
Their Administrator General's department, there are others that we're working with. I don't really want to do that now, but if the issues are not addressed, I can bet you can call on me and I will tell you all of them. All of them, I'm willing to do it if it is that they're not addressed. But since we're working through them,
have you given them a timeline in terms of when you want these issues to be addressed?
Well, the timeline has passed. It is urgent. Once there is mold or any such thing in the building that affects workers, then the buildings are to be evacuated. In fact, workers are not supposed to be working in those type of conditions. As a matter of fact, Giovanni, the Jamaica Civil Service Association has an occupational safety and health committee that is fully equipped to go into any government office and do our own investigation, test, and report that can can produce significant value to those organizations and make recommendations. So we are way ahead of the game, way ahead. And we have occupational safety and health
Let me just check with Dr. Badjo to see if this is an issue for some doctors as well. I know there were issues up to a few months ago at the Kingston Public Hospital, and obviously the issues at Cornwall Regional are well known, and that hospital is being worked on. But is that an ongoing issue as well for doctors in terms of inside the workplace mold and any other issue within the workspace, Dr. Badjo?
Yes, we have had issues with mold. We've had issues with rats. We have
rats.
Rats.
Where?
We have several institutions, but we have
Is this a current issue? Just for clarity here.
No, not currently. Not in my recent complaints, but we've had that issue, and we've had to report it to the ministry. We currently have a serious air conditioning issue. A lot of the air conditioning units at different institutions, and especially KPH, is down.
Could you name a few other institutions? You have KPH, where again you have issues with air condition.
So we had an issue recently where in the clinic in the St. James Health Department that had an issue with regards to in the clinics in Cornwall, that had an issue with regards to the air conditioning unit. It's quite a few. It's quite a few, and I believe it's absolutely unacceptable for us to be working in conditions where ventilation is poor, you're dying from heat stroke, and the patient is over there dropping down from heat stroke as well. It's unacceptable.
We have just about 40 seconds to go, in 20 seconds for the both of you. Next steps, and what would you want to see the government do? Starting with you, Dr. Badjo.
For the GMD, we want the government to honor your contract and honor your word, and treat doctors fairly, treat health sector workers fairly. And we are Jamaicans, we are citizens of this country, and I believe it has been quite appalling how we have been treated. And I'm going to talk especially for doctors.